Welcome friends to another r/maliciouscompliance video. If you want to be a big help, all you gotta do is hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by Frederick. I did all the work. This happened 20 plus years ago. I'm not sure why that matters, but I see it in many of the posts. I worked for the family business repiping mobile homes. Because I wasn't married and didn't have kids, my buddy and I were the out-of-town crew. We traveled all over the state. A typical week would consist of 10 houses over 5 days. 2 a day, Monday to Friday. That was the requirement. 10 houses must be plumbed a week, no exceptions. We had a backlog of work. After my buddy got good, we could easily plumb 2 houses in 6 to 7 hours. The other crews typically took 10 hours for 2 houses. Since we were paid by the house, it didn't matter how fast or slow you were, so long as you did 10 houses a week. I've always hated working 5 days a week, so we decided each Monday morning to look at our work orders and rearrange the schedule so we did 2 houses Monday, travel time getting to the first job, 3 on Tuesday and Wednesday, then 2 on Thursday, leaving us all Friday to sleep in, explore whatever town we were in, and enjoy a 3-day weekend. This went on for some time until my girlfriend wanted to go out of town for a 3-day weekend. So we finished Thursday, drive to the shop, dropped off my van, and left for the weekend. Friday afternoon, I get a call. It's the boss. Boss says, "Where are you?" I say, "New York." Boss, obviously confused, says, "New York? What do you mean?" I say, "I mean, I'm currently in New York City. What's up?" Lots of confused questions and snarky answers back and forth. They say, "Why did you cancel your Friday jobs? Is there something wrong with your van? It's at the shop." I say, "I didn't cancel any jobs." Boss, now more confused by how I did 10 jobs in 4 days than how I was in New York without their knowledge, says, "How did you do 10 jobs in 4 days?" I decided it would be easiest to tell them I've been doing this for a while. Pissed, absolute fury, that I'd been claiming my per diem and hotel while not working Fridays. Sunday night turns into a lecture of how I should be doing more for the business. I remind them we're the only crew that goes out of town. I'm told from here on out, I'm doing 13 jobs a week. I ask if the other crews will be expected to do the same considering they all work locally. Nope, just me. So I plan the compliance. I tell my cousin to schedule our next week in the city furthest away, about a 5-hour drive. We were normally only scheduled 9 jobs for that city as the first day drive took up so much time. No need to remind anyone of that. The number is 13 this week. So we head up Monday, no changes, no tweaks, just do what's scheduled. Obviously we can't do 2 on Monday, half our day was spent driving. It didn't help that we weren't exactly rushing, so around 4 we call the office and tell them to call the customer. We won't be able to get to them. The customer is furious and asks when they'll get rescheduled. No idea. Fast forward to Thursday, while finishing job 10, we call the office and inform them we're out of material. No pipe, no fittings, no wholesale house to go to. Nothing. Please tell the boss to bring us more. I get a call from the boss and the boss says, "What happened?" I say the van can only hold 10 jobs worth of material. That's the way you set it up. Boss says, "Can you go to X and get more pipe?" I say that's 2 hours away each way. We'll have to cancel another job. Plus they charge double what we pay in town. The boss says, "Why didn't you say you couldn't do 13 jobs?" I say, "I did. You said I was being lazy." Boss says, "I thought you meant you didn't want to do 13 jobs, not that the truck couldn't hold enough material." I say, "I didn't want to do 13, and you set the trucks up, it's your truck." Boss unhappily says, "I'll meet you at your first job at 7 a.m. And me with a smile you can hear over the phone says, "See you in the morning, boss." An exhausted boss drops off pipes and fittings at 7. I say, "Hey, do you want to help knock out the Monday job we canceled, or do you want us to stay another night?" Hotel per diem. We went back to 10 jobs a week after that. Would you rather work for a job that pays you more money but expects you to show up for a set amount of hours that is way in surplus of the actual work, meaning a lot of the time you'll probably just be sitting around, or would you rather work for a job that pays you less but allows you to get the work done whenever you can get it done, as soon as you can get it done, and just take the rest of the time off? Let me know which one you would take in the comments down below. Our next story is by Mad Dan Eccles 1, Eating Out on Expenses. A long time ago, I was sent to France for a week to undertake some technical work for a client. The way that expenses worked was that hotel, food, and travel were paid for by me. I then submitted an expense report and receipts to my employer, who would refund my costs. My employer would submit a copy of the receipts to the client, who would reimburse my employer. Simple-ish. So this particular client had a couple of rules. 1, they would not pay for any alcoholic drinks. I mean, in France, really? And 2, they would not reimburse their own employees for food when working from the office, even if they were in until midnight working on a project. The project manager at the client was a great guy but applied the rules to the letter. So on my first day out there, he took me aside and said, "OP, I will not approve of any receipt that has alcoholic drinks on it. Is that understood? Here's a list of my favorite local restaurants. Have a great stay." I was a little taken aback, but I wanted to have a good time, and I like good food, so I picked a restaurant from the list and went for dinner. When I arrived at the restaurant, I saw the menu. It was a fixed price for entree, main, dessert, and a carafe. 500 milliliters of wine. Freak, but I was hungry and I'd pay for it out of my own pocket because the menu looked amazing. I got the receipt after the meal and it simply said, "Le menu, 40 euros. No mention of wine or of what I ate. Second night, tried another restaurant on the list and the same thing happened. Okay, I think I see a pattern with this list. And so the week went on and I dined very well in addition to sampling a lot of the local wine. When the final day came and the project was nearly done, we all, myself and the client's project team, fancied going out for lunch. But of course, the client wouldn't pay for its employees' meals. Again, the manager took me to one side and said, "I cannot approve of any team's expense claims for lunch. However, let's say that you, on behalf of your employer, were to buy us all lunch as corporate hospitality, and then your employer sent that receipt to me as a project expense. I would be able to approve that." So I did just that, being careful to choose a restaurant from the list. Naturally. Needless to say that every expense claim got approved. I had a great time, the manager ended up with a very happy team, and the rules were followed to the letter. I think it's great that you come in here, the guy obviously knows the rules are a little kind of BS, and is like, "Here, these are my favorite spots, wink wink." Not only are you able to know that right away they have your back, but you know you can go to these places, they will be approved, and after the fact, you can have a nice drink. This next story is by Soft and Lazy. Excel is less expensive than an outside consultant. Way back in 2007-2008, I had a job that used me as a jack of all trades, but the majority of my duties were to do some reporting and analysis for the owners and managers. Before I started, the in-house systems cranked out the reports in separate spreadsheets and were emailed to the management team, who looked at them on actual printouts and correlated the data as best as they could. They finally decided to hire someone to do that, me, and being the product of my generation that I am, I decided to just do it electronically through Excel by way of pivot tables and VLOOKUPs. That's what I knew and had access to. I was able to crank these reports out inside of a couple hours when it used to take them days to get half of what I had. But the important thing to know here is that I did this on my own personal laptop, since the company was too cheap to invest in something as simple as Microsoft Office, or whatever it was called back then. I really didn't mind using my own laptop and no one ever gave me grief for it, but I tried to convince the management team several times to just spend a little bit of money and to get Microsoft Office. I would do demos of the different programs, Excel, PowerPoint, Word, etc., and everything they could do with it. They were always interested in it, but the owner was an absolute cheapskate when it came to spending money and always said no. He finally told me to just keep doing my job and never bring it up again. Yeah, okay, sure thing, mister. Well, as the story usually goes, I was let go due to recession, and the owner and his kids thought that all my knowledge and how-to was on my work computer, so they never had me train the guy inheriting my duties. A few months go by, and I get a phone call from Cheapskate owner. He was offering to hire me back part-time to do my reporting and analysis tasks, but I'd have to do it at a 40% pay cut. I decided to bite my tongue instead of telling him to kick rocks and just informed him I already had a full-time job and didn't want to give up my limited free time for that little of pay. Thanks, but no thanks. He called twice more and made the same offer only for me to give the same answer. Finally, he asked me what it would take me to do the job. Just trying to get rid of him forever, I told him that I would need at least $150 an hour, which was 10 times what I made before I was fired. And no matter what, I would need to be paid for a minimum of 15 hours a week, and that I would only be available Tuesday through Thursday. I thought, surely no one in their right mind would accept such a ludicrous offer, right? He accepted, and I worked there an additional 10 months before he sold off the company, and the new owners brought in their own analysts. It sounds to me like this guy was in way over his head. Like, did this guy have no concept of how to actually run their job? Were they just too stuck in the past? Or I don't know what really went wrong here. Obviously, they didn't value the modern systems enough. This next story is by Just Boy. Sure, I'll expense double the amount. I've seen a few work expense submissions in here, so I thought I'd submit mine. A few years back, working for a retail company, my job would be to travel around all the different branches the company owned as part of the IT department. As I rarely eat much in the mornings, I would take half an hour extra in bed and just grab a coffee on the way to the train station of wherever I happened to be that day. It was all fine for the first few weeks, until all of a sudden, the accounts lady starts getting super strict about what we're expensing, and a mass email goes around. The expense policy is not to be abused with coffee. It's not in place for us to purchase coffees for you. You are only permitted to submit expenses for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with a document attached of the expense policy. The only problem is this policy was a bit stupid, as I discovered when reading it in full. You were allowed to claim for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, including a hot or cold drink. Malicious compliance. From then on, every morning, I would stop off at the coffee shop, get my coffee and any random bit of food, give the food away to a homeless person, and go on my way with my coffee. I'd put my expenses through every month for 2 more years and never got another complaint. Despite the fact that it was costing the company double, they were fine with this. How dare you only buy a drink? That's for meals and meals only. If only OP had the chance to talk to this accounts lady and be like, you realize that a meal costs more than just a drink, right? Or that, they can get a meal that includes said drink that they were already getting, so I don't know what behavior the lady was trying to curb. And our final story of the day is by I Ate My Goldfish, Deli Counter Malicious Compliance. I work in a busy retail deli. We go through a lot of various cold cuts daily. Nothing ever gets old, but some of these slower selling pieces might take 2 to 3 days before we have to open a new one, but even that's pretty rare. Well within the time frame of perfectly fresh, nowhere near going bad or out of code. I absolutely love when we're down to less than a quarter of the current ham or turkey we're cutting through. In that quarter, there's at least 1.5 pounds to 1.25 pounds of slicing meat where the slices are still together and not really small. The customer goes, I'd like 1/2 pound of turkey. I go and grab it and put it in the slicer. They say, oh, is that the end? I don't want it if it's the end, the slices are smaller. I say it's close, but I definitely have 1/2 pound here. We sell a lot, so it's always fresh. The slices will still be good sized. The customer says, no, I want a new one opened. That's the end, it's old. It's no issue to open a new one for me. Eventually, we're gonna have to do it anyway, but when I get to a customer like this, it's always particularly a fun moment. I say, sure, no problem. Let me grab one off the wall and open it for you. At this point, they get smug and think they've won. When we open a new product, we take the actual end off. It's usually an 1/8 to 1/4 inch slice, so the slices aren't small, and we don't end up slicing our arm off to get the desired weight with the small slices. But we're only obligated to take just the end off. We can barely open the slicer, cut the end off, and we're good to go. Me dropping the new product on the slicer and making one slice, I say, I'll show you I'm cutting off the end. I hold it up and show the customer, then put it in our ends bucket. We sell the ends at a steep discount. The customer says, thank you, was that so hard? I cut exactly one more slice to show the customer for the thickness of the cut. It's about the size of the circumference of a golf ball, much, much smaller than the previous piece before I open the new one. The customer says, oh, that's so small, can you cut more off so it's a bigger slice? I say, no ma'am, it's brand new. You saw me open it, that would be wasteful. I've just opened this new one for you, and that's how it is when you open a new one. The first 1/2 pound or so after the actual end is small. The customer says, can I have the other one that you were going to cut? Realizing the other slices would have been bigger. depending on the situation, and if they realize they messed up and are being a pain in the butt, because with a new one opened, they're still starting at the end, I may go back to the other one. Sometimes it ends up being a pleasant conversation. Sorry about that, it didn't really occur to me, I'd just be starting at the end, or something along those lines. No problem then. I'll go to the other one and complete the order, both customer understanding and myself happy to have made them understand the situation. But this lady, however, was kind of a runt, and in this particular situation, another coworker had already grabbed that other piece to slice for another customer. I say, no ma'am, another coworker's cutting that for a customer. Do you still want half a pound? This one's very fresh, I just opened it. They say no, I guess not, as she walks away in a huff. Me, as she's still within earshot, say, you could come back in 15 minutes and wait in line again. The one I just opened will probably be towards the middle. The customer just keeps walking. Sometimes they go and complain, but every time when I explain exactly what I did to the manager who comes and asks about it, they see I did exactly what I was supposed to, and the manager just laughs it off. I guess that's the end of that customer, was probably my favorite manager's response. I definitely don't blame the customers a lot of times where they feel it's old or they feel maybe they're getting gypped on the size, but you definitely stop feeling bad for them if they're an absolute jerk about it regardless. And like the managers say, I hope he did everything right. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.